Hey everybody, Kat here, Vegas Fruity, and I have a bread recipe I'd like to share with you today. It is paleo, it's gluten-free, it's vegan, and it is low carb. So no matter where you're at, I think you can appreciate it. I love it. It's a very healthy bread, and I'll include the link below where I found it, but they left off the baking time and the temperature, so that's why I decided to remake it and share it with you. It's really wonderful. It is a dense bread, so although it is a yeast bread and it does rise, it's also, since we include nut flours, it can be kind of heavy, and you don't feel that while you're eating it until you're done. So I usually have just like half a bun at a meal. But that being said, it's a wonderful bread find, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So happy baking, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Okay, the ingredients we're going to need for this bread are going to be, first off, we're going to have our dry ingredients. We're using coconut flour, almond flour, and you don't have to use the blanched one, but that's the one that I have. Arrowroot, I'm using arrowroot starch flour here. And then I'm going to have some sea salt. Of course, I'm going to be using warm water, psyllium husks, milled chia seeds, so they're going to be ground, and of course yeast and maple syrup. All right, let's get started and I'll show you how to do it. All right, so in a bowl you put 1 cup of the arrowroot flour, 1 cup of the almond flour, and 1/3 cup of the coconut flour. And I'm doubling my recipe so it looks like much more than this. And I'm going to just kind of stir it around. I'm also going to add the salt in. I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon of salt. Well, you put in 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to double mine. All right, to another bowl, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of the active dry yeast right here. And 2 teaspoons is about a packet. And then you're going to add 1 1/4 cup of warm water, about 105 to 110 degrees. It's really important. And I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of this maple syrup to feed the yeast. All right, so we're going to let that sit for 10 minutes, and pretty soon we'll see the little fireworks where we'll see the yeast starting to eat the maple syrup. So let that sit for 10 minutes. All right, so here we've got our yeast after 10 minutes, and I'm going to be adding the 2 tablespoons of chia, milled chia, and 2 tablespoons of the psyllium husk. And it looks like more because remember I'm doubling my recipe. So I'm going to stir this up, and I'm going to leave it for 2 to 3 minutes to thicken up. Okay, so now that has gotten nice and thick and gelatinous, and what we're going to do is we're going to add it right in here. And I'm going to, that looks kind of funny, and I'm going to mix it up in with my flours, my dry ingredients, to make a dough, which I'm only going to need for 1 minute. Okay, so I've got this this nice ball of dough here. Now remember, I doubled my recipe, so yours is going to be smaller. And I'm just kneading it for 1 minute. All right, here's my little ball. I put it in this little glass bowl. I've lightly sprayed this with coconut oil so it won't stick. And I'm going to use a damp towel to lay over that and put it in a nice draft-free place, a little warm, just to double for an hour. All right, it's been an hour. I'm just starting this to 425. It's just starting to heat up. Turn your oven on to 425 to preheat. All right, it's risen. I'm going to turn this out here on this board. And what I'm going to do is, what you do is divide it in half. I'm going to divide mine into quarters because I doubled my recipe. And I'm just going to shape them in 4 little balls here. You're going to shape yours into 2 little balls. And instead of an egg wash on top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it lightly on the top with a little bit of coconut oil. Spray, and then I'm going to take some of this pure maple syrup, and I want the sugars to brown it. I want a little bit of a sweetness, so I'm going to just brush it lightly up on top. And then when I'm done with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of like cut little squares into the top of it so it kind of looks nice as it bakes. All right, so I put these on a piece of parchment paper, and I'm going to put the parchment paper and I have a baking stone in the oven, which is preheating to 425. If you don't have a baking stone, no worries, just set it on a cookie sheet, and you're gonna cook it at 425 for 35 to 40 minutes. All right, and here are the wonderful little loaves of bread. Don't they look beautiful? They browned nicely. Those are Shane's. He made some too. Yay! And they're nice and brown on the bottom too, and they are really, really good and very, very filling. Now you can't have them when they're hot though. With this kind of a bread, you're gonna have to wait until it cools completely before you have it. Otherwise, it's gonna be really chewy because of the chia in there and the psyllium husk. It's just the way that it is. It's a low-carb bread. And it's going to be a really good bread. It'll toast very nicely and should cut just great when it's cooled down. Wait 100% until it's cool before you eat it. But after that, it is amazing.